Evening to uh, Depeche Mode. Good evening, Scottish Car Enthusiasts, TV, and everyone else. I'm just going to just bring up the stream on my other account because that tends to work quite well when I do it, so we can keep track of what's going on. Yes, my lady wife was going to be monitoring the stream in the background as well because that's what she tends to do. Right, there we are. That's running nicely. Mr. G, good evening, sir. Let's do the pop-out chat. Right, there we are. We are now all set up and ready. Mr. Bill from Wells Wheels, good evening to you as well. So we actually, I think we started on time tonight. We didn't start early. We have tonight some different beer, which I have tried last night, and this is 2% lager. It's I think similar to what they used to sell in Sainsbury's, the Sainsbury's Basics lager. So it's not exactly the it's not exactly the nicest lager, but it'll do for tonight because we have to have different drinks every time we have a live stream. Yes, Mr. Coleman and I were talking about engine coolant, so we had a bit of a delay because we were talking about engine coolant. And good evening to Depeche Mode once again. There will be a very vague vlog on Monday about engine coolant and showing that one, I was struggling for content yesterday, and secondly that I don't know anything about engine coolant, and Mr. Coleman does. Unfortunately, that was recorded before our conversation, so if I come across as very ignorant and stupid during a very vague vlog, which is obviously nothing out of the ordinary, then you understand why. Right, everybody, do we have any questions? Yes, good evening to you, Mr. Sean Cook. Good evening, Fix, Drive, Ride, Fly. Good evening, Mr. Richard Howlett. Good evening to you all. No quiz tonight because I was 2% lager. Yes, indeed. Let's see if we can actually hold that up and show you. There we are. Yes, we can actually show you. It is 2% lager. It's not the cheapest or it's not the most expensive. It's not the nicest, but it is something for me to show you that is different from the last time we were on the live stream. Yes. What's the most expensive car you've ever driven? Oh my gosh. I know the most expensive car I've ever sat in was a 2005 Rolls-Royce Phantom. Most expensive car I've ever driven. Gosh, I haven't actually driven that many. Probably the E-Type actually. That was a reasonably expensive car. Yes, 2% lager and Depeche Mode. Good evening, Bad Books. Good evening. Depeche Mode, why is it so cheap? It's about £1.25 for 4 cans, so it's pretty cheap. It's a rebranded Sainsbury's Basics beer. I just saw it when I was shopping this week, and I thought you'd actually be intrigued to see it. I have tried it, and it's just the same as Sainsbury's Basics lager always used to be. Mr. Coleman's talking about Skull. Yes, I used to drink Skull as well. Light beer. It's all right. Yes, it's all right. It's not wonderful. It's okay. Yes, we're saving money this week on the alcohol, so we can spend more money on making videos when we come out of lockdown. That's what's happening. Sean Cook, this 2% bitter is much nicer. I'm not a massive fan of bitter, so yeah, I don't really like it, unfortunately. So I like continental lager. How does it taste? I don't know. It's all right. I would never ever recommend drinking this without chilling it because you just won't be able to drink it unless you chill it. My lady wife is asking a question. Are you sponsored by Depot 90 Lager? No, we are not sponsored by Depot 90 Lager. I would not have such a sponsorship because I don't agree with Depot 90 Lager as a principle, really. We're just experimenting with beer. Mr. G pushing the boat with beer. Richard Howell, I got my mug of tea, Yorkshire tea. Depeche Mode. I could have some Red Stripe. You know, I actually do have a post box address. I don't tend to use it because it's actually for my mother's property business, but I do actually have one. So there we go. Rubbish Mechanic. Cream Sherry would have been a much better idea. I think Mr. Coleman and I were on Cream Sherry last time we did a joint live stream. Fixed drive rifle. I'm trying to do it by drinking less. It's not working out. Yes, sadly that it's a bit difficult sometimes. Bad book. Second to Yorkshire tea. Contract Car Enthusiast TV. I have my wine chilling in the fridge to share with the good lady. Yes, it's very important to share your fine products with your lady wife. Sean Cook says, have you ever driven any Land Rover products? Just trying to think if I have. I have actually, yes. I've driven an original Freelander. It was a very early one. It was a 98 on an S, and it was a 1.8. I think it was an XI. It was called 5-door. I drove it very, very briefly, and it was the first sort of off-road I think I've ever driven actually. I'm not sure what my lady wife actually. I'm not sure my lady wife's actually got time to appear on the camera tonight. I'm afraid she's doing something else while she's monitoring the chat. Good evening to Rover Joe. Good evening, sir. Oh, so a lot of you have been watching the discussion that Mr. Langstaff from Maverick Motors and I have done in the last couple of days, and I'm pleased to say we've got an update here from Mr. Langstaff about his search for a nice Rover 800. Yeah, I'm not going to share that with you because that's not. I think it's confidential at the moment. But suffice it to say that the hunt for Mr. Langstaff's car continues. How am I today? Fine, thank you. Just thinking about how many Zoom calls I've actually done in the last sort of couple of weeks. I think the most used apps on my laptop now are Opera Browser, which I use, and also Zoom. Never used to be like that, but there we go. Dave Cuss, good evening, sir. Mr. G, I have eaten tonight, Mr. G. I actually cooked it myself, and I also made some for my lady wife. Scottish Guide VGS TV, what other YouTube channels do I watch? It depends if you're talking about general YouTube channels, or just automotive ones. Automotive ones, I have actually made a video on that at some point. I did go through most of them. If you want to be more specific, then I will answer that a bit more. Mr. Bill, do you think we're going to be getting snow this evening in the South of England? I don't really know, to be honest. Depeche Mode. How many of us want Lady White to say hello on camera? I don't know actually if she will, even if you all vote. You know, you can vote if you want. I'm not sure she's up for that this evening or not. She's quite busy. Rover Joe, I've been creating a lot of car illustrations recently. Oh, that's very interesting. Mr. Saxby, hello. Rover Joe, I'm currently designing a Rover 400 HHR. Wonderful. I do like HHRs. Good evening, Trabberley. Okay, Scottish Ride 3DS TV, automotive YouTube channels. Well, obviously, I watch Maverick Motors. I watch Wells Wheels. Those are two growing channels at the moment, of course. We have got another interview coming up soon with Mr. Bill. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. We record that next week. Rubbish Mechanic, of course, I watch. You know, it goes without saying. And Mr. Coleman is on tonight as well. Vince UK, good evening to you. Then the ones which are the sort of main ones that I would watch would be obviously Hubnut, Ian Seabrook. Never would have got off the ground in terms of being a channel without Ian Seabrook, so clearly that one. Furious Driving, you know, he's done a lot of my filming actually in the last couple of years for True Jacket Reviews. So yes, clearly that. Lloyd's Mechanical Marvels, again, goes without saying really. I've actually got a Lloyd's Mechanical Marvels t-shirt now. they had a nice design, but I happened to buy. Obviously, it's good to support channels like that. I obviously twin cam. I watch Mr. Westby, um, and I do watch I Drive a Classic. It's not always quite my thing. I Drive a Classic, um, but I do watch it. Particularly, she's got some really rare cars I've never seen reviewed. She did I think it was a B12 Sunny quite recently. I found that interesting. Let's just think about some others. I do watch Doug DeMuro occasionally, but it's not quite my kind of thing anymore. Um, let's just think about it. I do watch Hoovy's Garage or Garage, or leave it on to say it. Mr. Coleman's not so much a fan of that. I also sometimes watch The Car Wizard. There's an awful lot. I sometimes forget how many that I do watch. Really, there's a number of them. Right, next question. Mr. G, what do you think of Ian Seabrook's latest purchase? Mr. Coleman and I were discussing this evening, in fact, because Mr. Coleman's a very big expert on kind of P10 and P11 Primeras, and it's a 2-litre one, which is actually quite fast. I quite like those, actually. A friend of mine, when I had my first job after university, used to actually have a P11 Primera. It was 1.6, he was about 18, and he wanted to keep his sort of costs down in insurance and things, but they handle really well. They don't quite handle as well as a P10, but I think they've got a lot more space in them. The only thing is, with the styling, I think they kind of just thought that the P10 was selling really well, and they didn't really need to redesign it, so they just made a slightly larger version of the P10, which is probably a bit of a shame. And they did have a facelift a little bit later, but I don't know whether the P11 pre or post face is a better looking car. So yeah, it's interesting. Certainly, it's not actually in that bad condition as far as I can see. Mr. Seabrook's one. Depeche Mode. Have you got any further of that mission I gave you? I don't think so, unfortunately. Rover Joe, starting doing some car stuff on YouTube, main inspiration from Furious Driving and Hubnut. Yeah, they're very good channels to get inspiration from. I think the first video I ever watched on Furious Driving, but actually paid attention to, was when he was rescuing a Rover 214, and then Trabelli. Yeah, yes, 24 valve. Mr. Coleman's had some of those. Which are, yeah, a lot of people like I know the classic twin cam Hubnut. Fixed ride drive fly. YouTube is better than television. Yes, it normally is. No wonder the BBC are cracking down on licensing enforcement. Trabelli, Hubnut, Furious Drive, bit of Carwow. Yes, I watch a bit of Carwow sometimes. Again, Matt Watson's a very confident reviewer. He's actually quite a watchable reviewer. Some of the cars he reviews I find quite boring. I find a lot of the modern premium German cars just really boring. They're just all the same. It's so boring. But that's what the market tends to quite like. But they're just really boring to me. I don't enjoy them so much. Sean Cook, rejoin the chat with Mr. Franks. Yeah, if you want to know more about the history of Tweed Jacket Reviews and how even the channel got started, then the interview I did with Mr. Franks, which went up last week, would be a very, very good place to start if you have any questions about that, because really the channel would never have got started at all without the concept of Tweed Jacket Reviews or Mr. Franks. Fixed Drive, Ride, Fly. Car Throttle's also a good channel. Yes, it is actually. It seems to be consistently good. Although for a long time they didn't really do challenges with different cars. They would just buy one, which I thought wasn't as good as them buying, different ones together. Rover Job, just doing bits on my Rover 200 and then 25B, moving on to the Vitesse and the Civic VTI. Fantastic. I would love to do a Vitesse at some point. Walls Wheels, YouTube's great for everyone. Yes, there is something for everyone. That's why I even have a channel, because I don't think I could go on mainstream television really myself. Rice Mechanic, South Main Auto. South Main Auto is a fantastic channel in terms of repairs and things like that. Mr. Coleman's literally got some of the merchandise that they produce. I think he's called Eric, the chap who runs that. Been going a long time now. Fixed Ride Drive Fly, yeah, Rover Joe, look at Rover. I'll have a look at the Rover Joe channel, I think. That might be up my street. Switch out Furious Drive, Nobby from Ireland. I don't think I've seen Nobby from Ireland. Planet Auto, yes. Sorry, I forgot about that. Apologies to Ben and Annabelle who are watching. I do so much stuff with Planet Auto, and sort of regularly. That we sort of record a podcast every week, so it goes without saying really. Sean Cook, Matt Watson's very embarrassed in his reviews. Yes, he's quite flippant, but I think I quite like it. Disease or 24 people watching, half an hour on car channels. Well, it's a nice little meeting. We should ideally meet up in person, but obviously we can't at the moment, can we? Rover Joseph, Triumph Vitesse. Not a Rover. I like the Triumph Vitesse. It's a nice car. I used to want a Mark 1 2000 when I was about 17. I still kind of do want a 2000 or a 2500. Not the PI. Not so keen on those really. Travelite, Renault 21 Turbo or Montego Turbo from 89. Montego for me. Depeche Mode, if money was an object, what car would you buy? Can you put that into the question and answer session for this month? Because I can't really sort of come up with an answer to that at the moment. It's going to take a lot of time to think about that. Mr. Saxby. Petrol Blog is good, and so is Italian Autos and Kev T. Yeah, I like Italian Autos. That's the place I saw him taking one of the suspension arms off an Alfa 147, but it was an 07 plate, and just looking at how it completely was just rusted in half and broken apart. Yeah, that's a good channel, Italian Autos. You want to look at, the sort of cheaper end of the Alphas and the Fiats and things. Don't know anything about Petrol Blog. Sean Cook, Dougie Rankin. I have watched once Driven Forever Smitten. I watched him sort of get started an Opel Omega. It was a German import. It was a 2.4 litre cam and head engine. I'm not so massive on Vauxhalls. I have owned a Vauxhall. I drove one for many years. I don't know. It's not really an area I'm as interested in as I am about other brands. They're interesting cars, but obviously I'm a bit biased towards things like MG and Rover and stuff. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV, Diesel, yeah. Hubnut inspired me, and I signed off stress a couple of years to start my channel. Yeah, Hubnut was a big inspiration for me to get started as well. Really, I wouldn't have actually really grown at all if I hadn't done that. Probably that walk around at the first Hubnut Social. I suppose I do yesterday. Wanted to submit cracking channel, not a Vauxhall man, very own one. The old stuff. Yeah, the things like the Mark III Cavaliers and the Senators, I think he does as well. But they're interesting cars to sort of see. And Mr. Coleman's quite good on the Senators, particularly the Senator A's and B's. Whilst I was stopped at rolled of Vauxhalls. There's actually very few of them around. There's not a lot really around anymore. They seem to have, none of them seem to have disappeared. They're not as common in preservation as Fords at all. Fixed drive fly. Car prices to go through the roof during COVID. Do you think they'll drop once real life resumes? Oh, I don't know. I think it's due to scarcity, the fact that it's very difficult to order and buy a new car. In some ways, you can still buy a car during lockdown, and I know because I did source one, and it's on the channel. But I think people are tending to go more for the second-hand ones because it's a bit easier to get hold of them than the new ones at the moment. That's why there'll be a video coming out of the top 10 best-selling cars of January 2021, and it's the lowest January since 1970. It's 39.5% decrease over January 2020. So they're clearly not registering a lot of cars at the moment. A lot of people who are buying cars are buying second-hand ones, and that caused the prices to go up slightly. So I don't know. Maybe they'll go down a bit. Maybe they won't. It's hard to say. The market's a bit funny at the moment, to be honest. Depeche Mode, I would like to buy a McLaren. I've never driven a McLaren. Yeah, I don't know a lot about them, to be honest. I get very confused between all their models. They all look the same to me. Richard Howlett, I watch 90% YouTube, 10% television. I think a lot of us do, to be honest. We don't actually have an aerial connected to the television here. We have an old CRT that I normally use to actually, play a lot of older programs on, the sort of 60s and 70s stuff that I'm into. And it looks quite good on an old CRT, which is what we've got. And I've got a twin deck VCR and DVD player. And I have no sort of desire to change that, really. Yes, Mr. Commons had a couple of senators. We had a Senator A2 that was fabulous, that one, actually, that Senator A2. Disease, I only watch my television on the way to the living room to put the kettle on. Yes, I think a lot of the people use that for just sort of moving wallpaper, don't they, at the moment. Wells Wills, there used to be loads of Mark III Astras, but I hardly see any these days. Yeah, they were pretty common at once. I don't remember, they've been too common in the last 10 years or so. They used to be. Jonathan Bramble, evening. Yes, evening, sir. Depeche Mode, I definitely have the Julia on my shortlist as a daily car. Yeah, Mr. Coleman, I know, also loves the current Alfa Romeo Giulia, as do Planet Auto. They love that too. Sean Cook, what are your opinions on heating and demisting electric cars? Now, Mr. Coleman knows a lot more than I do. It depends on the actual electric car as to what system it uses, because there are lots of different systems for heating up an electric car. It depends what system it's sort of using, but yes, notoriously they're quite different from the normal ones, and that's why in MGHS plug-in hybrid the engine has to be on to use the heater, because otherwise it doesn't actually work, which some people don't like, really. It's just something to bear in mind. Trabeline, Mark II Astra 65 GT versus Maestro Turbo. Ooh, it's a hard one. I think, as far as I remember, the Maestro Turbo's got a bit more power. I think it's 152 horsepower. I think the Astra GT is about 130. They're both quite light, so I'm not sure what will win. I'm not sure if the Astra or the Maestro handles better. Which is how the first car, a good car, was a Mark II Cavalier. I've never driven a Mark II Cavalier. I'd really like to, particularly that one that Vauxhall Heritage had that Ian Seabrook drove, which is a very late CDI. That looked quite nice. It's a very late one. It's a last facelift. Diesel, I had a Mark I Astra SR. Wow. All those are rare. Those are really rare. Any Mark I Astra is rare. They had a very short production run of about 4 years, the Mark I Astra. So, yeah, they're very rare now. They tend to rust pretty badly too. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV, I think you need to review the Furious Driving Rover Cabriolet. Yeah, I've already asked about that, way ahead of you there. I could technically review it now, but we're in lockdown, so I can't go and do it. Fix, Drive, Ride, Fly, I always wanted a Calibra. Yeah, I'd like to do a Calibra as well. They're not too common either these days. They used to be everywhere when I was younger. Mr. Saxby, have you seen the new Mondeo? I have seen a picture of it. What do I think of it? I don't know, really. I've not had much chance to sort of digest it particularly. Rubbish Mechanic, nice to have a 166 out again. Mr. Richardson Furious Driving wants it for review. I'm not surprised. He does like his Alphas, as Mr. Richardson, and I can see why. That 166 is an amazing car. If you haven't seen my review of the 166, it's on Tree Jacket Reviews. I recommend you do so. The circumstances of actually filming that were crazy. That's a story for another time. Traveling GTS 150. Okay. I don't know, really. I suppose it just depends which one's a bit lighter and which one's handles better. I don't know, really. Depeche Mode, probably a question for Rose Mechanic. Can you jump start an AGM batteries with a lead acid battery? I don't know. That is a question for Rubbish Mechanic. He's already answered. Yes, you can. Sean Cook, I saw a bronze Lancia Beta Trevi. The Lancia Beta Trevi had quite an extraordinary dashboard, actually, Lancia Beta Trevi. I haven't seen one of those in a while. You only see the something that shows, really, things like Lancia Beta Trevi. Mr. Big Brain 123, hello. Good evening to you. Wow, I managed to catch up all my questions. I'm not very fond of this depot number 90 lager. It's not, doesn't seem to be going too well. It's okay. I think the best is when it's coldest, really. Yes, that's my beer review. Sean Cook, the interior is bonkers. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Jonathan Bramble, yes. One thing that annoys me in the car was when people advertise car for sale, no MOT, and say it should pass, no problem. Well, I'll just put it through an MOT. Well, I had an issue with that with the Suzuki Vitara that I bought many years ago. I was going to literally use it for Santa Paula. It'd be funny, and you do see that in the title sequence for True Jacket reviews, and we never actually reviewed it because we never got an MOT on it. The failure was horrific on it, and I just actually paid for the MOT, and just sort of moved it onto a private drive after it had its MOT done, and then promptly sold it for £420, which is a fair bit more than I'd actually paid for it, and just put it on a different forum, and somebody then bought it and put it through their own MOT. Can't remember what the failure rate on it, but yeah, there's no guarantee that if you buy a car without an MOT, it's going to pass. How do you know that? Unless you've got an MOT inspector like Mr. Colburn used to be with you, and he'd be able to tell you if it would pass or fail. Alan Simpson, good evening, sir. Yes, good evening. Fix drive, brew my own beer. That takes a long time brewing your own beer. I'm not sure it would be actually worth that. I'll have to see. Fix, drive, fly, brew your own beer. Yeah, I don't really want to. Probably trying to new food. It depends what mood I'm in, actually. Mr. Big Brain 123. Arceus would fail its MOT a lot, but it's due to its age. Yeah, it depends sort of where you are. I mean, you do see a fair few early pre-facelift Mark 1 seeds around. There's one actually on the road where we live. I'm not sure the failures these days are due to corrosion and things like that. Sometimes they are. Actually, dust of the early ones are quite good for rusting, but generally cars are a lot better and they don't have to do that so much. But yeah, it's obviously things happen, wheel bearings, suspension, everything like that as well too. Chippers, good evening, Mr. Locker. Good evening, sir. Actually, some SARS on the channel would be nice. I do have actually got a Saab coming up. I was going to film it when we were still in with Tier 4, and yeah, we just then couldn't film it. A friend of mine actually has one, so we were going to film that, but obviously we can't now. But he's waiting for me to come and do it. Once we get out of lockdown, he's waiting for me to go and do that, so it will happen. JD in Rotterdam, good evening. What car would you buy if you had a budget between £10,000 and £20,000? I'm afraid that's not really specific enough because there's loads of cars that I would buy. It depends what purpose I would need that from. Fix, drive, ride, fly. Bought my Porsche 928S with no MOT, got it roadworthy for 450, including tyres. Wow, that's a bargain. That's astonishing. Depeche Mode. Not overly keen on the design of the album from 166 Mr. Coleman has, but it does sound good. Yes, it sounds amazing, and the engine is beautiful. The lovely Busso V6. That's a 3-litre 24-valve Busso in that one. Mr. Big Brain 123. Do you prefer a V8 V12? V12 is so difficult to work on. Mr. Coleman and I were having a conversation the other day about how to change spark plugs in a V12 Jaguar engine, and oh my gosh, yeah, not gonna talk about that anymore. Travelling, Nissan Bluebird or Toyota Carina. I think 87 was the changeover year between two-generator Toyota Carina E. The later Carina E, which is the one before the Carina 2. The later Carina 2, which is one before the Carina E, I really like. The Bluebird, I do have a Bluebird coming up on the channel actually at some point. I've been offered one for filming, which is really nice. I would have done it by now, but we're in lockdown. So there we are. Alan Simpson, really enjoying the chat series over channels. Well, there's plenty more that came from, sir. I love the enthusiasm with Mr. Langstaff from Maverick Motors and a passion of Mr. Quirk. Well, Mr. Quirk and I do we talk, several times a week, like I do with Mr. Coleman, and we will be keeping going with the slightly shambolic sound recordings. I know they're not very popular with a lot of the viewers for some reason, but um, I do like making them, and so does he. So we'll keep going with them. We've got another topic for next week to cover. So there we are. Richard Howlett been teetotal for over 10 years. That's some discipline, sir. Mr. Coleman, V12, V8 a bit too common. Yeah, V12s are not common. Mr. Coleman is a very discerning person. Marie Cox, I think that's Harry. Hello, I'm back. That's excellent, sir. JD in Rotterdam. Okay, a price of £12,000. You know how you got to pick a car. Do you mean a brand new car, or do you mean just like any car for £12,000? Sean, would you ever consider an 80s or 70s car? Well, I used to own a Triumph Dolomite. It was a 1500 SE from 1980. So, I did have one. Yes, quite fancying a Claim or probably an SD3 Rover 216. Maybe Vanden Plas. I like Vanden Plas. Very nice. Mr. Big Brain 123. My grandfather has a 2008 Jaguar XKR 4.2. He did have a 2002, but the back end got a big dent in it. Yeah, I think it's the X308 as far as I remember, which is 2002. They're unfortunately not worth a. Oh no, sorry, an XKR. Oh, I like those. I'd like to try one of those certainly. Either the sort of the Mark 1 and Mark 2 of those. Chippers, what do you recommend from a late 20s budget between 10,000 and 15,000? Something a bit sporty. Do you mean a new car or a used car? Do you have a 1994-5 Toyota Carina or something of a channel? But the Carina E. I'd love to do a Carina E, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to get hold of one of those unless I go to the Toyota press fleet, and that's a bit difficult. Jaden Rotten, second hand. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Dear me, I don't really know. Again, it depends what sort of thing you want the car for. Do you want a car for the daily use? Do you want a car to just be a sort of bit of fun? What exactly do you want it for? Mr. Harry Cox, first generation Toyota Yaris. I've got a review of the first generation Toyota Yaris on my channel. It was a 2003 one, yeah. I had a Buick called Hugh very kindly supply that for me. I think I filmed that about early October or something. It's a T-Sport. Travelling. What do you think of the Isuzu Piazza? I'd love to review an Isuzu Piazza, but again, the chances of getting hold of one of those I think are quite slim. Chipper's used car. Oh my gosh, someone late 20s was a bit sporty. I don't know, but a lot of the cars that you can easily recommend, you go on the sort of High Peak Autos channel, and they're all the sort of things like used BMW M3s and Golf Rs and things like that. I just find those sort of cars really boring. I don't really I find them really boring. I don't know. Not sure really. Yeah, most of the predictable ones I find really boring. It's just not that sort of person really. Maybe go on the High Peak Autos channel and have a look and see what you can find on there. It's not really my kind of area, that. Simpkins Timothy, I heard the government wants to change the road tax system, pay as you drive on petrol diesel cars. Is it true? Being drivers be off the road because of cost. I don't know. Is it? That's not confirmed at the moment. I've heard rumours of it, but not really. Not really actually. Not really anything concrete at the moment. Disease. What cheap cars have come for your suspension? Where I live is throwing my speed bumps. Head of a sporty riders. If you go for a new car, MG ZS is a very comfortable ride actually. That's really good on sort of potholes and things. I'm gonna have to go back and have a check because I think we missed something here. Thoughts on the Fiat Punto. couple of Mr. Cox. First generation ones are really prone to rust and a lot of other issues. Second generation ones, I don't know, don't really do it for me. Third generation ones, same underneath as a Corsa. The engines got more reliable towards the end. The fire engines seem to get more reliable as you go on with them. Really, that was the thing. But it's not my kind of car. I don't know. It's never particularly liked the Mark III ones, the Grande Punto, the Punto Evo, whatever they call it. Chippers, go for a nice Porsche 94 944. Go for value of usable daily. I suppose so. Probably Maestro about we're talking about. The thing about the Maestro, the talking dashboard, like the 85 Vanden Plas that I reviewed, was the fact that that comes with the old dashboard. It's the three-piece one, and it sort of creaks and things. And I'm really much more nostalgic for the later Montego style dashboard, so I'd have to go for one without the talking computer in it. Mr. Bruno 1, 2, 3. What do you think of Jaguar E-Pace? I'd rather have, honestly, like a Ssanyon Corando than Jaguar E-Pace because it's a bit cheaper and there's a longer warranty. And to be honest, I find that to be a nicer car. Just my opinion. E-Pace is it's nice. It's just a bit expensive. They've got a 3-year warranty. And if you hold some sort of Super Circle water pistol to your head and took this little bit of Vauxhall from the 90s to buy, what would it be? Oh, probably a post-facelift Mark III Cavalier Saloon, be a CDX, probably the 2.5 V6 with a beige leather interior in dark green or dark blue. Chip has some interesting opinions. Yes, plenty of opinions on this channel. Depeche Mode, cars are okay, the dealers are terrible. Yes, yes, we had a nice conversation about Fiat dealers in the comment section the other day. JP in Rotterdam, be practical for me. I'm not really sporty. I love handy and practical, also good on fuel. MG ZS 1 litre automatic. If you used one. Really got thoughts of Daihatsu E. I've not seen a Daihatsu E. Trebly, hit the like button, gents. Yes, thank you. It'd be very much appreciated. Sean Cook. Let's go up to VRS. Yeah, that's a pretty good. Pretty good bet. Although you've got to make sure the clutch isn't being killed, because I did kill a clutch in the VRS once. Rubbish mechanic. Trebly, yes. Chatterbox dash, yes. Only available in the MG and Vanden Plas Maestros before February 1986. Depeche Mode. I'm really bringing MG Motor UK. Even the MG6 to the UK, you're not the only one. Do you know that's available in green, that MG6 in other countries? Not sure why they haven't already done it other than SUVs. Unfortunately, the market segment that the MG6 would get into is just shrinking. There's about 3 cars left in this country, which is the Mazda 6, the Vauxhall Insignia, and I'm trying to think of another one, but I can't even do it. The Mondeo, but that's about to be replaced. So there's just not a market for it, which is a shame because I really like cars like that. But there we go. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV, hit the like button. Thank you very much, sir. Bad books. I remember the Renault 11 talking dashboard mid 1980s. The Renault 11 TXC Electronique that actually beat the Maestro Maestro and Vanden Plas to market by a couple of months, and so the Renault 11 was the first car with a talking dash, not the Maestro. Jonathan Bramble, I see average electric cars a range of 130 miles on charge. I was really off-putting with spending £30,000 on one. Electric cars need a decent range. The thing about sort of like the Mazda MX-30 and the Honda E is that they cost a lot of money. We're talking sort of upper 20s, and the range is really bad. You might as well just buy an MG ZSEV or an MG5 and save yourself a lot of money. And get a nice long warranty on your car than spending it on one of those, nice as they are. Alan Simpson, a nice choice. I've just soft spot for a Carlton. Yeah, I quite like the Carlton pre-to GSI. What do you think of the MG5 Refill issue? I have no idea what I think about that. I think it's a bit silly, really, and it's not something to get kind of too hyped up about, really. Marie Cox, thoughts of the Daihatsu Quarry? I don't know anything about them, really. I've never driven one. I know that Seabrook knows a lot more about those than I do. Irish Mechanic, Alan Simpson, Carlton Diamond 2.6 estate back in the day. Mr. Big Brain 123. What car do you hate the most? The cars that I've driven on the channel that I don't like. City Rover. That's one of the worst cars ever made, and a huge disappointment for me because I do like Rovers so much. Purgatory 7 also is dreadful, awful car, terrible car, really bad. But just modern ones, I don't understand Duke. I mean, you can look at my review and check out reviews of both the 207 and the Nissan Duke. The Nissan Duke's not had many views if you want to see that, but the particular example we had was bright yellow, and the owner really liked it, and we got in trouble for that. So that's the sort of selection, really. Mr. Saxby, the Passat, Mazda 6 Mondeo. The Passat's not really, because it's not a hatchback, it's a saloon. So, Rotterdam. What do you like more, the Carino hatchback or the saloon? I think I prefer the hatchback, actually. Yes, and we did get a number of them with air conditioning in this country. Mr. Simpson, Roche Mechanic. Yes, Mr. Coleman does have a habit of making his cars look very nice. Depeche Mode. I would have bought a Mark II MG6. Yes, that's the 2015 facelift. I'm only made them for a year. Of course, you don't fill up with forbidden fuel. Yes, indeed, you don't fill up with forbidden fuel on this channel, do we? We can't talk about it. Absolutely. Was the Triumph Reclaim better than Dolomite? It was better in some ways. It's certainly more reliable than the Dolomite. Nicer gear change, and everything like that. And I mean, the chances were it was actually going to start in the morning of things. In terms of actually performance, for most of them, really claim would have been a bit slower. But I wouldn't mind an Acclaim really. Mr. G, favourite car colour? That's easy. Dark green metallic. Scottish car enthusiast. Quite like the review on the Duke. Yeah, we enjoyed ourselves then. Forbidden fuel, yes, exactly. Forbidden fuel. The newer Duke does look a bit better. I have seen one in person because one of Mr. Cole's relatives actually got one, and we had a look at it actually. Yes, Mr. Saxby. MG6 looks fantastic in green. Yes, the new MG6 looks wonderful in green. Mr. Big Brain 123. What was the car we owned and didn't want to get rid of? I think I didn't really want to get rid of the Dolomite actually. I didn't really want to get rid of the Mazda 323F that I had. The one I had was much nicer than the Seabrooks one, by the way. Same era, but nicer. The MG3, we had difficulty getting rid of it actually. My lady wife still misses that car. That was really sort of hers more than mine in a way. Yeah, those are the ones I'd sort of think of. We also like the latest R8 we had. Cox, Harry Cox. What's the 1990s Renault Scenic? Not really my kind of thing. I don't really like them particularly. I'm much more excited about filming the Renault Megane Classic Saloon that Mr. Bill has offered me for after lockdown. Mr. Simpson, do you know filmings that were made of a photo film? Yes, I have actually. When I was at school, we actually remade an episode of The Avengers. I won't tell you which one it is, or it's not even on YouTube. And it used to be back in the day, but it's not now. It's gone. I do have it, on disc somewhere. And we actually made an episode of that. I'm not going to sort of share that because of copyright and things, but we did actually do that. It took a long time. I think we filmed it from October 1999 until the last day of filming was December 2000. It was shown in May 2001. Took a while to do that. Marie, yeah, it's actually Harry using his mother's account actually, Depeche Mode. He is certainly sort of going. Depeche Mode looks great, yes. Trabally 87, Rover 216 ST3 Van den Pla, or a Ryan 1.6i gear. Ryan 1.6i gear is nice, but of course I'm going to have the ST3, aren't I? ST3 Rover. Didn't Rotterdam, we went on a long road trip. How long was it? What car did I use? Yes, I have done A couple of those. I've driven with my mother twice, all the way from this country all the way to central Germany and back. It takes a long time. I think it's 600 miles. We used to stop in either in Belgium or in the Netherlands on the way there and back. It was a 2010 BMW E91 320D Touring Business Edition with an automatic gearbox, was the one she had at the time, and no cruise control, which was very annoying. Don't know why in a business edition you don't get cruise control, but there we go. Mr. Simpson, yeah, it was. You know, obviously I can't show it. Mr. G, Everton 2CV, no. Driven a right lobbying, Mr. Simpson, no. Actually, 1988, Rover SD3, the Tess. Babbitt's Mr. Seabrook's management going to receive for any of that. Mr. Seabrook buys dreadful cars all the time, and he knows it. And no surprise, sort of there. Jonathan Bradmore, my classic car insurance policy's got £100 if I can't use it during lockdown. Groan. Dear me. Mr. Harry Cox, Clear V6. I'd like to try one of those at some point. I don't think I'd want to own one particularly. Passion, what plans to go for what channel? I've been talking about the plans quite a lot. Is, you know, I've got stacks and stacks of cars that people have offered me for no budget reviews, just second-hand reviews. We've already planned, I think, 3 cars we want to film between jacket reviews and just get going again, and also get going at shows and things. I mean, you know, that's what else can I say? We're just waiting to have government restrictions sort of lift to do that, and you know, finally we might actually be able to have a social event, which we've been waiting for ages to do. This will be 1, 2, 3. What do you put on a Newark seed? Well, they're really good. They're really good, actually. Any seed is pretty good. Yeah, the newest model, we actually got very close to buying one of those apart from Tivoli. It came very close to that. Yeah, definitely decent ones. Mr. Bill, I like the Mark 1 Megane. Well, that's because you have one, sir, isn't it? Mr. Bill, insurance got to rip off, got messed up bad out of mine after I lost my job in the first lockdown. Oh dear, sir, that's really bad. Really bad. Mr. Simpson, has Lady Wife done a tree jacket review? No, sir, she is not. I believe Volvo 740 GLE or an Audi 100. I think Audi 100 actually. Oh well, get killed by Mr. Colm for saying that. I think I prefer the Audi. I like the old Audis. Harry Cox Ford Puma. I like to drive a Ford Puma. I really like to. Apparently they're really nice to drive. They're still quite cheap, although they all suffer from the terrible rust. Anthony Henry, MGZR 160 VDC or MGZT 1.8. I do like the MGZRs and the Rover 25s and the R3 200s, but they're not very comfortable for me to drive. If I was driving for less than 15 minutes, I'd be okay. But after that, I tend to get a bit of cramps. So the steering in any of those is wonderful. Fantastic steering and handling in those. Really good. Obviously, you've got a nice throaty case there. It was a nice VVC. The MG ZT 1.8 Turbo 160 that I drove, did in channel in August, was a real surprise. I actually really liked that. They were very punchy. I think I probably have the ZT. It's a bit more me, I think, the ZT than the ZR. Seeing I've got an opinion on Renault Grand Megane Scenic Mark II. I wouldn't buy that. Don't buy that. Don't buy it. Not good. Ford Puma. So yeah, they actually some ladies like them, some gentlemen like them. Or you got Vossel Tigra. I'd drive a Mark 1 one of those. I'm not so keen on the Mark 2 because having owned an Astra Twin Top, I know the roof mechanisms are very prone to failure. Both mechanic, of course, 760 V6. You know, you asked me about 740 as opposed to the Audi 100, and so I had, you know, if it's 760, I would have gone to that one. Wells Wheels, yeah, they tried to raise the insurance by £300. We drove job interviews during lockdown. Oh, Mr. Bill. travelling Nokia Ericsson from the 90s, Ericsson. I had a lovely Ericsson T65. I think it was about 2003 I had that. I do like the older Ericsson. T68M was fantastic. Bad Boys, older Adi 100 Avant from the 1980s. Um, yeah, they're pretty interesting. She was also a favourite manufacturer. It's gone bust. You've obviously not been on this channel very long if you have to ask that. It's Rover. Jonathan Bramble. I would have thought classic car prices would have dipped during lockdown, less finances, but cars seem to be holding their value and gaining value even more. Yeah, this is something we discussed earlier on the live stream. I don't know what's going on with prices. It's really weird. Cars seem to be holding their value more and more, and quite a few people are buying them during it because you can get a transport company to come pick the car up for you. Even Ian Seabrook's car was delivered to him by a very kind viewer. So, yeah, I don't know. Alan Simpson. If you could bring Rover back from the dead and produce one type of car, what car do you build? I think it'll be probably similar, to be honest, to the MG5 EV, because that actually is probably what Rover should be making today, with a nice soft suspension. But what you'd have to do in that is actually give it a nice beige leather interior and make it in dark blue and dark green. That's what you'd have to do. What you'd like to drive, what car of the year 2021? I'd like to drive a Sandero. I just don't see a way of actually getting hold of one at the moment, unfortunately, which is a shame. Jeep PEF ST24. Love the MG ZTT, yes. Jordan, who works on my Road 45 V6 when Mr. Coleman, doesn't come down, and he'd be doing the furthest outing from me, has a ZTT. Marie Cox, X5 and X3. X5 is better than the X3. The X3 wasn't great. X5, I actually had a friend's mother who had a first generation X5 in dark green with a beige leather interior. Yeah, that was interesting. Trouble Lee, did I buy any car magazines? Yeah, I bought loads of them. I don't know what to do with them now. I've got too many of them. Roach Mechanic is a bit of a bucket list car, Volvo 780. Like to part of Vital Organs to buy one. Yes. I really would like to drive one of those too, Mr. Coleman. Really would like to drive one of those. Must be 123. Your favourite classic car? Do you remember the lifetime car is so emotional? Yes, I do remember actually. I remember you from that video. Favourite classic car? Oh, there's loads. There's too many. There's too many for me to say. I don't know. Probably a Lancia Fulvia. I've just asked for one. Alan Simpson, Montego Turbo Diesel Estate. Unfortunately, you're on the wrong channel, Mr. Sean Cook, because we can't talk about that on this channel, I'm afraid. JD in Rotterdam. I was young. My parents and some family members had a vacation, a campsite, big green Rover surrounded with beige seats. I don't know what Rover it was. Probably a P6, I would have thought. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV, bucket list car, be a Rover P6, by Mr. Richardson. Yeah, well, I used to want one of those when I was younger, actually. Jonathan Bramble, question time, like an early Volvo 340. There's actually a chap on YouTube, I forget the channel name, but he's actually got 3 Volvo 340s, and he compares them on the channel together. I think, he's got 3 of them. One's a really early one, one's about 79, and then one's sort of 83, 84. I think you'd like that video very much. I forget the name of the channel now. And Richard Howlett, I can't think of a new car we'd buy. Yeah, well, it depends what you want, really. But the Seat Toledo is one of the last kind of sort of old-fashioned new cars in a way, and it's not anymore. Anthony Hammond, Rover 620 Ti or Rover Electric Coupe? Oh, I don't know. If the Coupe had the T-Series turbo in it, that would make it very interesting. I don't actually know. I don't know. Trabberley, favourite motoring journalist. That's William Woolard, of course. Why do you think I do the Woolarding on Tree Jacket Reviews? The Mark 5 Golf is the same as the Volkswagen, as the current Polo, says Mr. Harry Cox. Yes, it is. Which says I'd have a lot, none newer than 10. Okay. What unlimited cars? Yes. Depeche Mode. If I summon Mark II MG3, would your lady wife like first refusal? I know. I like the laser blue. I like the low mileage. Unfortunately, she doesn't really drive very much at the moment, and she's driving tomorrow, but she's taking. I just take it with Sanyong because I don't need it. We don't really need cars very much at the moment during lockdown so much. Sean Cook, yes. Wash your mouth out, sir. We don't talk about forbidden fuel on this channel. H Saxby, morsels and motors for Volvo 340. Yes, it probably is. I just forget the name of the channel. Fortunately, he has, I think, an early Metro and also Volvo 242. I think. Jay Rotterdam, Rover P6, also known as Rover 2000, 2200, and the 3500. We've got books or films, definitely. We are coming towards the end of our time on the live stream now. I'm just checking the time here, and we've only got a couple of minutes left. Glad so many of you have been tuning in. I see that you've been enjoying it. Mr. Coleman's enjoying it because he's now mentioning the forbidden fuel. Which he uses 5,000 litres at work because he has actually a diesel pump on site. Oh, I'm so sorry. I said the taboo word. I do apologise, viewers. So yes, we're going to have to draw it to a close quite soon. We will do another one of these next week if there is demand. You have to let me know if there is demand for that. Travelling Citroen XL, Renault Safran. Oh, I don't know. Oh, probably the Renault Safran, but it has to be a V6. Sean Cook, Volvo 360 to sleep it. Yeah, it really shifts. I would love to drive a Volvo 360 GLE. Has to be the 2 litre. Bad books. Please hit the like button. Yes, please do hit the like button. Harry Cox, Volvo C70. Yeah, that's quite nice. I'd quite like to try one of those actually. Got the white block engine in them. Jonathan Bramble, what's your favourite car TV programme? Oh gosh, you mean current one? I have watched Bangers and Cash, but I don't know what it is about it. I don't know. It's all right. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Good night, Travelly. Favourite small van? Oh gosh, I don't know. I do know. It's the Rover Commerce. There you go. Depeche, but Willie Dillers, yeah. Willie Dillers, before they got loads and loads of money, Willie Dillers was fantastic. I prefer the sort of earlier stuff he used to do. But then they got loads of money and went to America, and I didn't like it so much. Sean Cook, yes. Everyone can blame me for forbidden fuel references. Walswell's Cars West. Yes, Cars West is actually pretty good. That's a decent program. That Marie Cox VW Bora. I wanted to buy one of those actually at some point, but Mr. Cole wouldn't let me because he doesn't like working on them. Anthony Henry, MG Express is better than the Commerce of 1.8. The thing is I just prefer Rover stuff to MG. Just the sort of person I am, which is why we don't have a ZS 180. We've got a 45 V6. That's just the way that it is. You should all know that by now. Anyway, so 58 minutes and 20 seconds. Right, okay, so Mr. G, yes. I don't know what order to release the sort of stuff in next week. We've actually got a fair bit of stuff coming up. We've got top 10 best-selling cars for January 2021. We've got a video talking about coolant and very vague law, which is going to be rubbish. Yeah, and then we've got an interview with Mr. Bill coming up as well from Walswell's. The bit of fuel will be petrol soon. Yeah, if you look at top 10 best-selling cars, which is coming out quite soon, then it really is. 2000 Mini Cooper. 2000 Mini Cooper is one of the last classic minis ever made. It's one of the last classic minis ever made. They're really expensive now, those ones. Jane wanted to know, I remember VW Bora had a very small cargo space, a small boot. I don't know, I'll have to take a look at one, to be honest. Depeche Mode. The clock only goes up to 59 minutes and 59 seconds, yes, it's supposedly. Marie Cox, 2001 Kia. I'd love to try I think it's called a DC Rio, which is one of the Mazda engineering. I'd like to try one, but I'm not sure I'd like to own one personally. The latest Kia Rio is the best one, the Mark IV. Mr. Saxby, thank you. It was fun live stream as well. We will be continuing them, sir, because you seem to like them, all of you viewers. So we will be continuing, and we'll be continuing the same time next week because you know, we have to have some amusement on the channel, haven't we? Just remains to me to say thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Social media links are somewhere, and we will see you again for another fun live stream. Yes, good night to everybody. Good night to Mr. Simpson, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Cook, Depeche Mode Music, Mr. Saxby, Bad Books, Mr. G, Scottish Crime Enthusiast TV, JDN Rotterdam, and everyone else. Good night. Enjoy my beer. Yes. Hopefully, I will have a Careenery on the channel one day. Thank you, Mr. Bill, for an entertaining evening too.